Could a mirror reflect more than what meets the eye? What if your reflection hides a dark story, one that isn't your own? I'm so fat, Lucy fake name mumbled, pinching the stringy flesh stretched taut across the back of her arm. I suppressed a deep sigh. 4 months into therapy, and there hadn't been much of an improvement. I had tried to close therapy with her and refer her out to someone else. I felt guilty taking her money, but she wouldn't have it. I wondered if I should set an ultimatum. If her family still doesn't show up to participate in therapy with her, I'd have to terminate our sessions. I wasn't getting anywhere working with just Lucy. I didn't understand her parents and her older sister. They claimed to care, to love her, and want the best for her. Yet, no matter how much I emphasized the importance of their participation in treating her eating disorder, especially since she was still a teenager, they never showed up for therapy. I had only seen them twice, when they had stopped by to pick her up and drop her off. On those occasions, I had pounced on the startled parents and herded them to my office, ignoring their startled annoyance and comments about being tight on time. I had drilled in the importance of family involvement in eating disorder interventions, or thought I did, and extracted promises from them to join in future sessions. But that never materialized. I had never seen her older sister in person, save for her modeling pictures that Lucy had shown me. When asked what good enough looked like to her, "It must be really painful to see yourself in the mirror and think such harsh, critical thoughts about yourself," I said. I didn't feel like going down the usual route of challenging her thoughts, of testing the reality of her beliefs. We had done those to death. She looked at me and nodded, a heavy shadow settling upon her face, dragging the corners of her lips down. I was running out of ideas. I forced myself to take a beat, to acknowledge, then put aside my rising sense of incompetence. An art session. The thought flit into my mind. It wasn't the gold standard, evidence-based treatment for anorexia, but those hadn't worked, so what was there to lose? Lucy loved drawing, especially with charcoal. "Let's draw today," I said, and smiled at the sudden light that suffused her face at my words. "Let's have you draw yourself, how you see yourself. Then let's have you draw me. I'll draw how I see you, and how I see myself too." I was going off script, but I hoped that somehow, through sharing our drawings and perspectives of each other, I could help her better recognize the distortion in her self-perception. I'm terrible at drawing. But try. I did. She was amazing. Her charcoal sketch of me was simple. Her drawing of herself, though, showed a girl I didn't recognize. It's not that the girl she drew was bigger than she really was, or heavier. It was that the girl looked like someone else entirely. The drawn girl's eyes were wider. Her chin had a slight slant to it. Her cheeks were round, and her hair was curly. My client had one of those symmetrical face shapes, with a sharp, centralized chin, gaunt, sallow cheeks, and straight, lanky hair. The body shape was that of a fuller girl as well. I was confused. Did Lucy have more than an eating disorder? Did she have some form of body dysmorphia, where her distorted view of self applied to facial features and other details? "You've drawn in curly hair," I said, gesturing to her limp straight hair. "Oh, I know I've straight hair," she said, "but the face I see in the mirror has curly hair." "Oh." I chewed on my lip for a second. I spotted a dark mark on the drawn face, right on the cheek. I had assumed it was an accidental stroke of her charcoal pen, but I wasn't so sure anymore. "What's that on your cheek?" I asked, pointing to the drawing. "A scar, I think," she said. I studied her unblemished cheek. "I don't see a scar," I said. "Oh?" She frowned. "It appeared one day, and I could never scrub it off. I figured it's a scar or pigmentation I must have gotten overnight." "Have you only seen it in the mirror?" I asked, intrigued. She nodded, raising an eyebrow.
Yes? I mean, how else would I see it?
She asked, making a show of turning her eyes downwards to her cheeks. Huh. On a sudden impulse, I asked, "What color are your eyes? The eyes you see in the mirror?" She blinked. "Hazel." "Do you have hazel eyes?" I wasn't sure what she counted as hazel. Maybe she thought her dark brown, nearly black eyes were hazel. She shrugged. I didn't, but now I do. It was all I could do to not say, interesting, out loud. Maybe she had hallucinations, saw someone that wasn't her. How would that fit in with her case formulation? I had assumed it was an eating disorder. Could it be something else? "How do you look in pictures?" I asked. She stared blankly at me. "I haven't taken a picture in almost 3 years. Since my issues began." "Not even one?" I raised my eyebrows. I didn't bother to add that her issues had probably begun long before 3 years ago. "No. This feeling of fear and disgust takes over me when I try to be in a picture," she said. She seemed almost to deflate, crumpling into hunched misery. I felt a pang of sadness, and a sense of protectiveness reared its head. "Let's take one," I said. "Let's prove to yourself how you really look." I prayed that she wouldn't see the completely different self in the photograph, too. Her eyes widened. She seemed about to make excuses, to refuse. But then, the resilient girl that she was, she bit her lip and nodded. "It's about time," she said, probably trying to convince herself. Her fists were clenched tight, and her lips, pressed tightly together, had drained of color. Before she could second-guess herself, I whipped out my phone, tapped on the camera icon, and snapped a picture. A guttural cry of pain tore from her throat, and I froze. "Are you okay?" I ventured. She was shaking, and cold sweat beaded her upper lip. I'm fine. There was this shock of..." She shook her head and managed a weak smile. "I'm fine." It just felt painful for a second. I nodded, heart still beating fast. I hadn't expected that big of a reaction. I pulled up the photo on my phone. "There. See how you look. For real?" She flinched like I had slapped her and screwed her eyes shut. "Hey, Lucy? It's okay." "I'm sorry," she said, eyes still welded shut. "Every time someone wants to show me a photo of me, I feel this terror, this. It's like I physically can't look, like something is stopping me." "I'm sorry. That's terrible. But I'm here, Lucy. Nothing is stopping you. You are in control. You can do this. You've got this." She shook her head rapidly. "You do. Really. It's fine. We can stay here. You can take all the time you need. When you're ready, you can." Before I could finish my sentence, Lucy had flung her eyes open with a Herculean effort. Her eyebrows shot up, and her jaw slackened. "No way," she gasped. I look so thin." I felt a thrill of happiness. Finally, she saw it. She scurried over to the mirror. "But here, I look. This isn't me," she said, pointing at her reflection. Thrill continued coursing through my body. Most clients with eating disorders saw the same warped view in the mirror, in reality and in photographs. The fact that Lucy didn't see the weight issues she thought she had in her photographs could mean a wonderful breakthrough. Finally, "Look," I said, turning to her reflection, while also holding up the photo for her to see. "This is how you really look," I said, waving the phone a little. "Your reflection should reflect that." I trailed off, as my voice caught in my suddenly dry throat. I saw her then, The girl Lucy must have been seeing all those long months. The taller, fuller girl, with a mark on her cheek, with curly hair and hazel eyes that were staring balefully at me. The fury in that girl's face seemed to reach out of the mirror, cross the gap between us, and smack me in the chest. I licked my dry lips and slid my eyes to the left. Lucy looked puzzled as she stared at the photo, then at the mirror. I darted a glance back at the mirror, where an enraged face still stared out at me. I shut my eyes and felt my breaths getting shallow. I took a few slow, deep breaths, grateful that Lucy hadn't seemed to notice or to comment on my sudden change in demeanor. I turned to face Lucy and opened my eyes. Her face was drained of blood, and her lips trembled. Why does it look like that?" she asked, pointing with a shaking finger at the reflection. "She looks so angry. She's not moving as I am, not looking as I." She swallowed and took a step back. Lucy saw it too. I wasn't going crazy. I risked another glance at the mirror. The girl in the mirror had not stepped back, as Lucy had. "Lucy," I asked, surprising even myself with how quickly I had accepted the presence of something altogether supernatural. "When you look down at your own body, not through the mirror, do you see that same girl?" I needed to know if we could ditch the mirror and run. If she only saw it in the mirror, then we could find a way to deal with that. She nodded, and my heart dropped. She looked down and pinched her waist. "I see the fats," she said. The girl in the mirror scowled. Lucy jumped back, as did I. The girl in the mirror stayed scowling, head forward, as if eager to pounce. I grabbed Lucy by the shoulders. "Lucy, we have a problem, and I don't think it's anorexia." I interrupted myself with a scream and leapt back. I couldn't see Lucy's face anymore, not just in the mirror. As I held her, all I saw was the other girl's face, and she was glaring straight into my skull, eyes burning with hatred. I backed away, eyes darting to the door of the office. I cursed myself for seating myself nearer the inner wall of the office rather than the door. Basic safety strategy 101, but I had ignored it, thinking my clients mostly harmless. Dumb move. And why did I work on a day when my admin was on leave? Could anyone hear me if I screamed for help? "You will not cure her," the girl said. "She does not deserve to be cured. She deserves to hate herself, the way I hated myself." This was bad. We were either faced with a supernatural possession, haunting, or Lucy and I were sharing a visual and auditory hallucination, with Lucy also probably having a dissociated identity, some part of her that surfaced unbidden. I couldn't afford to be losing my license, so I convinced myself it was the former. "Who are you? What is your relationship with Lucy?" The girl sneered. "I'm no friend of hers. We have no relationship." "How do you know her? Why do you stick to her?" No answer. There must have been something. I gulped and made myself study the face of the girl. She seemed to be a teenager. She couldn't have been more than 14, 15 years old. "You don't seem to be a bad person, or unreasonable," I said. I had to do some mental gymnastics to see the girl with the malevolent eyes and cruel smirk as just a teenaged girl, likely one who had been hurt. I needed to convince myself of my words, so I could infuse authenticity, sincerity, into them. The girl blinked. She seemed slightly taken aback. "She deserves to hurt," she said after a pause, bitterness coating her words. "What did she do?" The girl was silent for a while. Then her expression cracked, and a look of pure fear broke through. Lucy's features followed. "Help! I can't!" Lucy gasped, as if breaking above the water surface for a first breath in a long time. Then she dipped back below, and the other girl's face came back into focus. she snarled. I waited. She was nice to me. Her friend was a bitch. Nasty bitch, the girl spat. But at least she wasn't fake like sweet Lil Lucy. She sneered. Whatever happened must have hurt you deeply, I said. The girl blinked again. She seemed thrown off. She continued, her tone still taut with anger, but some of the edge had washed off. Christy was a bitch. Mean to my face, called me names, chubby choom choom, fatas, lard face. She was disgusting. Again, Christy's a fake name, confidentiality and all. I frowned. Fucking teenagers. The girl before me was fuller, more fleshed out than the wayfish clients I often saw. But that didn't make her look bad. She was pretty. Even with her features contorted in anger, I could see the beauty in them. I imagined her hazel eyes would have been warm and kind at some point, and her curly hair would have framed her cherubic face nicely. Not that such name-calling would ever be okay, however she looked. And Lucy? Was all I asked. She always had a smile. She didn't remember who I was, but whenever she walked by me, she would smile and nod. She paid me a few compliments before. The girl's eyes went misty, and the anger faded for a moment. I was right. She did have kind eyes. But that was all fake. She spat, anger once again twisting her features. Christy was her friend. I never understood why, until that day. She suddenly yanked at her hair and pulled hard, ripping copious strands of hair out. I heard Lucy scream. Then the girl reasserted herself. Christy was pointing at me, making her usual shitty comments. You sure you want that ice cream? The girl mimicked. You could end up looking like her. Christy had pointed straight at me, like I wasn't there, like I didn't have feelings. Lucy had looked right at me, and instead of telling Christy off, standing up for me, she had just laughed. Laughed and smacked Christy playfully on her arm. Stop, she had said, still fucking giggling. Her eyes were bright with rage, but I could also spot the pain in them. Lucy went on, rubbed salt in the wound. She pinched her non-existent tummy, said she felt fat. Bitch. I sighed. Teenage life was one I would never want to repeat. It was a trial by fire phase of life for so many people, especially young girls. Teenage angst was a particularly nasty poison. I want her to feel how I felt, to feel fat, ugly, hated. I hope she feels this way forever, that she starves herself to death in a house with a extra-large refrigerator stuffed full of food. She doesn't deserve happiness. So you haunt her. Not Christy. Even as I said the words, the realization fully sank in. This girl was haunting Lucy. This girl was no longer alive. This girl might have. Tears filled my eyes at the thought. Who says I didn't haunt Christy? The girl smirked. Ask Lucy where Christy's at. A chill ran down my spine. Oh wait, she doesn't know. Christy left school, moved away. She had to be warded, you know. Ask me what happened to her. I bit my lip. I'm so sorry, I finally said. I had to focus on helping Lucy. And, what's your name? I asked. There was a slight hesitation before she answered. Anna. I'm so sorry, Anna. All that shouldn't have happened to you. People can be so cruel, especially when they're young. Anna's eyes moistened, though her face stayed hard. She looked down. You're a beautiful girl, I said, ignoring the derisive snort she made. And I'm sorry you were made to think differently, that the world made you feel like you weren't enough, when you so clearly are. Anna clenched her fists. Don't lie to me. Her words were hard. Don't speak that bullshit. I broke my self-imposed rule then. and reached out to hug a client for the first time. "I really am so sorry," I said. She stood stock still for a long moment. Then her body began to convulse with sobs. I didn't say a word. When I finally pulled back after a few minutes, Anna hid her face and swollen eyes with her hair. "Did you know Lucy was bullied?" I asked. I was breaking confidentiality, but I felt this warranted it. Besides, let them penalize me for telling a client's secret to the ghost haunting her. I could tell from Anna's face that she didn't know that. All through the ages 7 to 13, badly bullied. She was overweight then, and her sister had already begun modeling. A teen model. When her sister showed up for her school events with her parents, how do you think people reacted? Shock flashed in Anna's eyes, and pain seeped into those round orbs. She worked hard to lose weight. Her parents encouraged it, wanted her to be more like their older daughter, their pride and joy. I paused, letting the heaviness I felt recounting Lucy's past uncoil itself. Christy was the popular girl, the first popular girl who wanted to be her friend. Do you see why she might have had difficulty standing up to her, having been bullied in the past? Anna opened her mouth to argue. I cut her off. I know. It still wasn't the right thing to do. She could have done better. But do you really not see how what she had gone through would have led her to her actions and words? Anna closed her mouth and looked down. Christy herself might have been going through her own issues. I won't defend her. I didn't know her. But I know how tough society is on women. How difficult it is to keep trying to be perfect, to be everything the world tells you a woman should be. I placed my hand on Anna's. She kept looking down, not meeting my eyes. Don't you deserve some compassion? To be at peace, to be happy. Doesn't Lucy? Anna's tears fell freely once again, soaking her cheeks and neck. I felt my heart break. I wanted to comfort her, to hug her again. So I wasn't prepared when she lunged at me, grabbed onto me with a death grip, and slid into my body. I leapt back, arms flailing. I could see her body take over mine. I scratched at myself trying to get her out. I ran to the mirror and saw her face. Easy to say when you look the way you do. Anna's voice issued from my throat. My neck hairs stood on end. The unnatural, horrifying sensation of someone else using my body, my voice, struck me dumb for a while. How had Lucy coped with this for so long? Sure, Anna had probably never taken control of Lucy's body before that day. But still, seeing your features slowly morph into another's, seeing another body where your own was, it must have been terrible. At the same time, I also found a tiny bit of myself secretly pleased the hidden compliment in her words. Ah, vanity. Social conditioning. I looked at myself, or rather Anna, in the mirror. Now how do you feel? Anna said, using my voice. She smirked with the muscles of my face. How do you like it when you have my face, my body? I took a good long look at the mirror. Then I smiled at my reflection, at Anna's reflection. I was relieved to see I could still control my body. I think I look beautiful, I said, hoping she could sense my sincerity. Anna reacted like I had headbutted her. She stared blankly at me for a long minute, mouth gaping like a goldfish. Then her hazel eyes softened, just a little. I placed my hand on the mirror, at where her face was. You're beautiful. From the corner of my eye, I could see Lucy staring in a mute mixture of fascination and horror at Anna and I. Anna strove to speak. Then she stopped and shook her head. Another long moment passed. She looked up, stared straight at me. I could see the sorrow in her eyes. She shut her eyes in a grimace of pain and sadness. Then her face relaxed. She let out a sigh, and she was gone. I looked down and did a once-over of my body. I was me. I pulled Lucy in front of the mirror. Lucy's reflection stared back at us. "Do you see her?" I asked. Lucy shook her head. I sank to the floor, finally letting my taut nerves loose. Lucy flopped down on the ground next to me. We were silent for a long while. When Lucy's parents came, we said nothing of what had transpired. I didn't bother to ask them about why they had failed to join in the session again. That was a battle for another time. I wish I could say that Lucy recovered from her eating disorder right that day, but that wasn't the case. Still, her progress shot forward. We had finally had a breakthrough. She began taking decent strides to recovery. Just 4 months later, she could stick to our meal plans 70% of the time. A huge, amazing improvement from her baseline of 0%. I believe she will recover to lead a healthy life, both mentally and physically. I believe in her. I didn't try to find out what happened to Anna and Christy. Life has enough suffering. I didn't want to go looking to witness more. All's well that ends well, right? Well, except this morning, someone called in to book a session for their teenaged daughter. They wouldn't tell me what the issue was. They said they didn't know. They sounded terrified, helpless, hopeless. Their daughter's name? Christy. Sometimes, the pain we carry from the past manifests in unexpected ways. But even the darkest reflections can fade when met with compassion and understanding. Now, tell me, do you believe that mirrors have the power to reveal our souls? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more spine-chilling stories. Thank you for watching.